Ah, yes, every season in the NFL brings a rebirth and a chance to go from the cellar to the penthouse. Worst to first. Dan Hansis, along with Mark Sessler, Chris Wessling, and Greg Rosenthal of the Around the NFL podcast. We are each going to go out on a limb and pick a team that will go from worst to first, fourth place to first. Who is the most likely team to pull that off, Greg Rosenthal?
I'm going with the Cincinnati Bengals. I mean, I don't know if the
Whoa!
Do they have
coming out hot?
Do they have like a theme song or some sort of like victory march? I just feel like the
Who Day.
Who Day. I would wish I could sing
Still.
that right now. Zach Taylor is, I think, gonna lift up this franchise from what had ultimately been kind of a boring run there at the end with Marvin Lewis. And I think they needed new blood, and I think they needed new offensive ideas. And why I picked them is because their roster's fine. Like, you look at their two-deep roster, I think it's at least a solid NFL roster. And you look at this division, and can't you see a scenario where all four of these teams are between 7 and 10 wins? I think the Bengals have that sort of talent level. You win a couple close games in the division, and you eke out an AFC North title with maybe a few tiebreaks along the way.
Well, I think people forget because of the injuries last year in the second half of the season that they started out 3-1. They were in the mix after a month for that title, and I agree that their roster has some questions, the offensive line and the defense, but it's better than people think.
Right. I think Tyler Boyd,
Joe Mixon,
A.J. Green, and then I think the updating of the offensive philosophy should help.
I mean, but we go down the list of their talent, and we can't really say that about Andy Dalton. He's fine. I'm not going to knock him and say he's the only reason they can't get to where you're saying, but the Bengals, to me, have been a team for a long time that have not been the sum of their parts. They, for a string of years, arguably had the most talented roster in the AFC. They can't figure out how to knock out the Steelers. They can't handle the Ravens. They could beat the Browns once or twice. Now you got the Browns to deal with. I don't know. Unless a lot happens wrong for the rest of the teams in that division, I mean very wrong, I don't know how this first-year head coach does this unless the entire time Marvin Lewis was sort of intentionally keeping them down, which would not shock me.
McVay Midwest.
I like it. Who Day versus Who Dat. You don't hear a lot of pop heat between the two fan bases in New Orleans and Cincinnati. Doesn't mean there isn't any.
There is, and there's a lot of debate about who started it first.
Interesting. Wes, we'll throw to you, the former Cincinnati native. Cincinnati native.
Yes. I don't buy any of these worst to first teams, but one finished half a game out of last place.
Cheating. This is cheating.
And they lost twice to the team that finished in last place, the Green Bay Packers. And to me, this is your obvious choice because if
how could it be an obvious choice? They're not even a last place team.
It's your obvious choice, but who can go?
If you're just stretching rules, it's your obvious choice.
Yes.
I mean,
well, let's just say the Jaguars and Bengals were off the table as options.
You know what?
So I'm going to go someone.
I'm going to go with the Chargers. They went 12-4, finished second place last year.
Like that.
They're rising up to first place this year.
Okay, my answer is no one then.
No, go ahead, Wes. Go ahead, Packers. Go ahead. Tell us why.
Well, because Aaron Rodgers in any normal season is healthy enough to carry the team on his own. And last year was not a normal season. They were in a lot of games right up until the very end and right up until McCarthy's play calling and Rodgers freelancing went head-to-head, and then he sat back there and took sacks on third downs and played horrible situational football because of what was going on behind the scenes. But they were clearly good enough last year to beat a lot of good teams. They were in those games.
You look at the NFC North. The Bears at 12-4 last year. Are they going to come down? Or are they going to go up? We'll see. The Vikings. What are the Vikings? They're a very hard team to figure out. And the Lions, they kind of just exist. And Detroit fans will even agree with that until they make a move one way or the other. It does seem
just buried the entire division in like 3 words less. The Vikings. What? Who are the Vikings?
To Wes's credit,
move on. You're done.
If the Packers do figure it out with a revitalized defense and Aaron Rodgers with a fresh start, that is not that wouldn't be stunning on any level.
I mean, it would be more stunning if the fourth place team in that division came in first.
The aforementioned Detroit Lions.
But the Packers also had the Clay Matthews issues at the beginning of the year where they're losing weird games. The Bears had an awesome turnover ratio. Maybe that comes down a little bit. That's predictive more than anything else of teams falling off from a win-loss perspective. So, the Packers, I think, are going to be seen by many as they oft are as a playoff team.
Wes hasn't taken a beating like this since his bachelor party weekend playing cornhole.
Wow.
That was a very tight contest.
That would be avenged.
I wish we had some B-roll to go to from that weekend. That was nice appetizer, guys. Good start. But if you go back in time and what the same video exercise a year ago, I nailed it. You guys didn't. I did. AFC South, they said the Texans will go worst to first. What happened? The Houston Texans are going to go from worst to first. I actually think this is going to happen.
Front page of your Wikipedia?
It is. When I get one, I will demand it's in the first paragraph. I had Texans going worst to first. I'm going to stay in the AFC South because it works for me. A wide-open division. Football's most wide-open division. And I say the Jaguars off a deeply disappointing 2018 where there were so many expectations after they very nearly went to the Super Bowl. They bottomed out. Blake Bortles, they stuck with him, and they shouldn't have. So what do? They get rid of Blake Bortles and send him packing. He now plays for the Rams. In comes Nick Foles, the Super Bowl MVP, to stabilize that position. Josh Allen at pick 7, a gifted pass rusher, falls into their laps to supplement that defense. They go get an offensive lineman at 35 overall, Jawan Taylor. And I just think a team like this, with all the talent they have on the roster, and I think it's a well-run organization now, after last year's disappointment, that will be motivation on top of that. I think it's a better team, and a bad taste in their mouth leads to 11 wins, and they win that division.
I think for me, I'd want to see what happens this offseason with the Jaguars shifting from, years of wanting to be a almost throwback, run-the-ball-first type offense to one that, with a new coordinator and Nick Foles, needs to move towards RPO and all the stuff we saw that worked in Philadelphia. Because the last time Nick Foles was in an offense where it wasn't catered to his strengths, he didn't last, I think, 9 games as the starter. He's had more durability issues than most people realize, too. Nick Foles has had an awesome NFL story that you'd have to be dead inside not to get behind, but his track record as a starter, being paid a lot of money, is zilch. So we need to see it, and I think that's a huge X factor.
For sure, and I hope the team will be smart enough to cater their offense to the quarterback.
But that's hard to do in one offseason.
Before we move on to the next team, I think we should just go around the room. Dead inside?
Most of the time. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, so I guess we don't like the Nick Foles thing. That's sad.
I did for a bit.
Anyway, Jags 11-5. Book it. Mark, close us out.
I mean, I am with Wes. There were not a lot of teams to pick from here, but I'm going to look at a team based on the idea of sports, kind of just throw it in the blender sometimes. We spend 6 months in the offseason.
Out with it, Mark.
Telling you what's going to happen. The New York Giants.
Whoa.
Okay, listen. Whoa. I want to talk if we didn't know anything we knew about the New York Giants, and I just said this is a lineup that can just – we talked about a division in the AFC North at 7-9 wins.
We're
NFC
interested.
East,
Keep talking.
We'll see. Golden Tate, Sterling Shepard, Evan Ingram, Saquon Barkley, who can be your Barry Sanders, and if you get adequate play from, let's say, Daniel Jones replacing an Eli Manning I don't believe in, you have a team that, once again, these require a lot of chaos and evilness to happen throughout the NFC East. But if that happened, the Giants, to me, aren't a total lost cause. Because even last year, they weren't as bad in games as we thought down the stretch. I don't think they're a good team. They're a last-place team. If a lot of craziness happened, could this be a story that I would like because sports are unpredictable? And secondly, we've just spent the entire offseason destroying the front office, destroying everything that they're about, and for good reason. But maybe the end,
sports are funny like that.
That's what I'm saying. In the end, maybe we'll find out weird stuff happens.
So a team.
Am I putting my the car I don't own up against this or the house I don't own? No, but
so you're not putting anything.
I'm just saying, for the sake of this segment,
even if you did, you wouldn't put it up.
No.
So the Giants, with uncertainty at quarterback and a head coach that, who knows if he can do the job, and a defense that no one believes in.
And some clearly better teams in the same division.
Right, that's the thing. The other 3 divisions that we've brought up, actually, it seems like they're very balanced divisions where, you could almost make a case for any team. This is a division where 2 teams seem clearly better than the rest, but
we'll see.
What do we know?
Check it a year from now.
It is a good thing you don't own a car or a home.
It might
for
be.
once.
It might be.
All right.
Maybe it's just because you're betting on the Giants all these years.
It might be.
All right, there you go. Worst to first, our predictions. Check back on this video 1 year from now and marvel how we all got it right.